It's a great pleasure and honor for me to be part of Jignasa in this event of AyurVision 2020, and I am expected to speak on the Ayurveda or the future of Ayurveda, especially in the East and West, and looking forward to hear you all the comments and valuable suggestion in this point too. So I would like to speak the whole thing into two. One is about how the teaching and practice of Ayurveda should happen in India as well as in the European countries. As you all know well that Ayurveda is now become a global part of the science, and as a part of that, Ayurveda has been explored or exploited too in different part of the world in different level. As an Ayurvedic teacher, I have been teaching Ayurveda in different part of the European countries and felt lot of difficulties too, besides the pleasure of teaching content to many, and I would like to share that also in this context, especially the subjects like Ayurveda, which is of complex in nature. Generally in India, we are fortunate to have lot of Sanskrit knowledge. Most of our Indian knowledge has somehow linked with different informations about Sanskrit in different way. So it's make us much more easier to understand Ayurveda like a traditional knowledge system, and moreover we have greatly rooted with our own culture, and this culture is giving lot of advantage for us for understanding knowledge systems like Ayurveda. But when we happen to teach Ayurveda to a Western country, things are much different, because people are from different culture, people are of different age, people are all having a different perception of the nature and the reality. So keeping on that in mind, we may think about the difficulties in the teaching and practice both in the East and West. So as a teacher, if I start thinking from the direction of a student, often in academic we try to classify a student into much of the quantitative evaluations. By and large, we do lot of quantitative evaluation, but most of the time when they come to the reality of the world, they have lot of qualitative complexities in their life. For example, let me tell you one thing. For example, when we happen to practice Ayurveda in India or in Kerala, when patients comes, we may need a very small information to be passed in related with pathya or the dietary restrictions, because already people have enough knowledge about this. Besides, a lot of people may be already aware through different social media about what type of food they should eat, what type of food they are not able to eat, etc. At the same time, we may able to give them some directions is more than enough for them to arrive into a conclusion what to be done and what not to be done. But if we are happen to practice in a Western countries, the patient may not be totally aware of their health problem. Maybe they are aware of their health problem in the modern perspective, nothing related with Ayurveda, and they may have a large number of questions related to their life, their physical health, their mental health, even their spiritual seekings, and also they may often they may ask about their diets, and we doctors will be in a big dilemma. because they will ask, can I eat pizza, can I eat pasta? So how can we answer, because these things will become very complex for us, and moreover we don't have any clear cut idea about it, what to be done, because we don't have any idea about this type of food, whether it is increase vata, whether it is increase kapha, whether it creates ama or not, etc., etc. So that's the reality. I mean to say that we have to work with some uncertainty, and oftenly we will face a lot of issues also during this uncertainty. And from our Ayurvedic education, very unfortunately, we often hear this mode of uncertainty. Often people will say, no, you have to study this yoga, and maybe you may have a different options. So by and large, students have a big challenge that they are working with uncertainty. This should not happen actually, but we are habituated to have that uncertainty, and we believe that there is a certain period of time we may slightly overcome from this uncertainty into a better, slightly more certainty in their life through the help of our teachers or whatever the mode they get it. So the first difficulty will be in the teaching as well as in the learning, will be the difficulty of the complexity of the content. So student may think, how should knowledge and understanding and the awareness of these things is known to us, how to communicate. For example, teacher may have a big difficulty to communicate many ideas. For example, how to communicate Tridosha, how to communicate Mahabhuta. There is a big challenge in that perspective. And meantime, and since the students are much expected about the way of demonstration of things, like in physical sciences, so they will most of the time they were expecting these things from a student. So because of that itself, people may have a difficulty in perceiving the things what we teacher intention and what the student understood. So this is one thing that creates a lot of ambiguity or lot of difficulties in Ayurveda educations, at least in India. Also, this is much more complex and more difficult when we speak to the outside Indian audience. For example, when we are speaking to a teacher, a student may ask, can I think about this, can I do this? Then there may be some difficulty for the people to know, there may be difficulty for the people to understand what it is, what I should do, like that. So what I mean to say is that we need a clear-cut idea what we want to communicate in the time to time in the context of teaching and learning. Otherwise, we will end up with a lot of confusions, and that confusion itself will create difficulties in the perception of this. So primarily, we have different levels of difficulties. One is about the language, that often we may have difficulties in communicating to the people because of the Sanskrit, but by and large we can overcome this by using the technical words, enlisting the technical terms. We may have a list of technical terms in Ayurveda, and that can be communicated to say that these are the words we are using as a technical term, and this technical term means like this. And often we may feel very difficult to find a single word or single sentence to explain that word. It's okay, it's acceptable that we may able to explain more than 2 or 3 sentences to explain this idea. Maybe for example, we want to say guna to a student. It may take 4 or 5, maybe 10 sentences to explain the complete part of the perception. So that could be understandable. But meantime, it is very important to use exactly the right pronunciation, right, even the writing nature also, it's a very critical. Unfortunately, nowadays a lot of people are writing in a different way, multiple spellings and all. We need to be really uniformed if we are really looking for a future of Ayurveda with a proper way, because we need to have a very clear idea about the words what we are using, meantime what we want to communicate. So this is the one thing that we want to create a sort of what I mean to say, a sort of ambiguity should be avoided, but there is also some chores or some difficulty will be there as a part of it. That can also be overcome if we properly practice. That can also be overcome. I mean to say, suppose if we want to teach properly to the students, so if we want to say certain things to the students, so we have to clarify them in a proper way. So if I say from Ayurvedic perspective, there are a lot of strength we have. This is very, very important. We should communicate to the Ayurvedic community, is that we have a universal outlook. Probably no other medical system, traditional medical system in the world could offer such a beautiful information which is very much natural, very much traditional and very simple informations, and it has a beautiful system biological models too. Ayurveda has a beautiful system biological model too that can be applied in any part of the world, as well as when human body survives with the same nature, we can utilize this knowledge as is best. We have a beautiful system biological model. We have wonderful principle based approach. Even the basic calibration of things in Ayurveda, very basic calibration of things in Ayurveda is not sticking on the external factors, rather attached to the self-centric way. That is a beautiful. If you just taking a length of a body, it is mentioned not in centimeter or whatever the measurement what we have outside, rather it is called Anguli pramanam, or the quantity of liquids mentioned as Anjali pramanam is all very much self-centric to a person, which is absolutely beautiful, absolutely very much useful for a teacher like all of us, so that we can teach this content in any part of the world. So from a strength point of view, Ayurveda has an enormous strength to explore. Even today, enormous potential is still hidden inside. We are not yet explored that potential yet. But meantime, once we meantime, once we think about the weaknesses, we also should think about the weaknesses too, because Ayurveda has a lot of weaknesses too. Weaknesses in the sense there are many informations in this textbook has socio-cultural linkages, and if we are able to overcome from that socio-cultural linkages, then only we could able to overcome. We will not be able to overcome. So there are a lot of socio-cultural linkages are there. For example, let me give you an example. Brahma muhurte uttishtet. So if I am speaking to an Indian audience, I say, okay, we have to wake up in a certain period of time, which is few hours, few minutes before the sun rises. Wonderful. The yama, information, etc. wonderful. But suppose you are speaking to a person from Denmark, suppose you are speaking to a person in Scandinavian countries or other part, where sun may set at night 10 p.m. and sun may rise at 4 a.m. How can we communicate this to the people? At that period of time, we may have to find another possibility, that what Ayurvedic textbook beautifully explained, that we have to find a possibility that Yeah, we have to find a possibility that what is Brahma Muhurtam. So there is a point where we are switching on ourselves, Jirna Nirubayan. That means that we are in a mood that we are switching from everything from a zero. So the moment we woke up, Brahma Muhurtam representing the moment we woke up, where we have everything is zero. There is no physical ama proposed to be, there is no mental ama, and we are starting a day with a zero. So in that context, we should say to the people, if I am speaking to a Western audience, I say that Brahma Muhurtam represents Brahma Muhurtam represents the when you woke up, you will have a Sukha Swapna Prabodhanam. It's working. Sukha Swapna Prabodhanam. So that there the word, first word we have a socio-cultural linkage, but here the socio-cultural linkage is not there. We focus person-centric way. Another weakness, another challenge we may have, is same word many meaning. We often will have a difficulty in communicating the same word with multiple meaning. One rasa will have so many meanings in different contexts. So we could able to explain people that different contexts we use same word for different purposes, and we could able to do the communication. Another most commonest complaint normally we have when we are teaching to the Western audience, especially in Ayurvedic education, is they will say Ayurveda doesn't have a structured way of data. It's not true. It is just because this comment happens because we are expecting a structured data the way what we learned, what we learned before. But it is not the way we should expect. Because a book that is written 200 BC or 500 AD, how can we expect something that could be structured the way now we have? Absolutely, it is impossible. So what people are saying, the structured way of data means that we want the way what we learned. No. Rather, instead of the other way, what we should do is that we have to look the path what the text follows, and we have to take that path so that we will be able to explore all the content. Let me give an example. I just give a quick example. For example, Sushruta Samhita. We often read Sushruta Samhita as a clinician. We might have read many times, and very openly we all know that there are many organs are not explained the way what we expect. For example, thyroid gland, pancreas, there are many organs are not very elaborately explained. Even there are many the so-called important organs what we have now are not elaborated at all. So we may think that okay, Sushruta missed, we may comment that okay, Sushruta missed thyroid gland in explaining in his book, and we may comment like that. That is wrong. It's not that way. The other way around, we are not able to follow the way how Sushruta looked the body itself. If he could able to explain the skin layer like 1/12 size of the Vrihi, half of the size of the Vrihi, like Avapasini, Lohida, Shweda, Tamra, Vedini, Rohini, like that, how can he miss an organ inside the body? Definitely he might have not missed, rather he might have explained these things in a very different way, which we are not able to. If we are not able to understand something going wrong within us, we have to look the way how Sushruta was looking into it. So non-structured way of data is another weakness generally complaints, but we have to understand that thing. Another common complaint people will say in Ayurveda education is about the language and grammar. Truly speaking, currently the Ayurvedic textbook languages are relatively very simple, not very complex in the grammatical perspectives, in very complexity comparing to many Sanskrit literatures. Of course, Vagbhata Samhita has used enormous, more than 30 murtham, the chandasas are they used, but still it is not very complicated so that we could not able to unlock it. And moreover, it's not the grammar, it's not the language, rather the idea. Te to artha pradhana, not to shastra. So the artha pradhana, the meaning of the words are much more important in that way. So that's another important thing. Again, we have enormous opportunities now for in the perspective of learning and teaching Ayurveda, because large number of people in the world are looking for a place where people can learn Ayurveda. If there are people comes from a very preliminary level, they can learn from even from any undergraduates, doctors, graduate doctors can teach them. If they are advanced, they can have higher educations. So there are immense possibilities that we can teach Ayurveda in such a way that it can be useful and helpful to the people. But at this opportunity, we need an immense rigorous preparations. Otherwise, people may fail. We have seen a lot of people, they teach Ayurveda just like a content is vomited to them without really communicating what they want. That should not happen actually. If you are teaching something to somebody, it should be very simple, very clear and very brief, so that they don't need to mug up, rather they have to just try to understand what is happening, and they try to understand and they try to know what is really useful in that. If we are able to do like that, it has enormous possibilities that people can be a great mentorship, you can be a mentor of many people, and that can give lot of opportunities. But we have a lot of threats too in this. One is the books available. If you look at the cross sections of the whole Ayurvedic books in the society, a large number of books are, fortunately or unfortunately, written for BAMS graduates following the CCM syllabus. But of course, we have few lakhs of students are learning every day, we agree. But meantime, we should not forget that there are a lot of people outside India also like to learn. They want to know the basics of Ayurveda. So it could be nice somebody could write very good qualities of books which could able to be read very easily in a very simple language. Meantime, they should be able to communicate the depth of the science too. Another challenge or another threat we have is often the contradictory statement between the teachers to teachers. Very oftenly this happens that students when comes, they will say, I heard from another teacher that they have told like this, another teacher had told like this. So there is some ambiguity or some uncertainty happens between. So this should not happen. So once we are teaching students, it could be very important even in the East as well as in the West, especially in the West. We should not create any confusion. We have to make it very, very clear what we want to communicate. There may be lot of language constraints too, maybe especially in the European languages like German, Italian and all. There are a lot of constraints they have, but very fortunately there are a lot of books now have well translated into those languages and they are started reading into that. So there is a great possibility of having language overcoming from the language constraint. Another important thing is the diversified interest. Nowadays people come for learning Ayurveda with a diversified interest, even inside India as well as also outside the world. So even in the BAMS career, a large number of people may come just because they are looking for a medical profession and somehow they got into BAMS. It will be a big challenge for them to survive with this science, because there are a lot of complexities at this moment that can happen. So, if we want to overcome these type of things, if you are able to overcome from these type of things, definitely I strongly believe that Ayurveda has a great future. Ayurveda has a great opportunity in going further, because this is the era of knowledge, and there is a lot of potentialities are there. There are immense potentialities are there. So people are really looking for that, and the truth is that what you really value is what you miss, not what you have. There's a John Lewis great sentence that what you really value is what you miss, not what you have. So the traditional medical systems like Ayurveda become extremely vulnerable commodity for the world today, precisely because it has a great hope. People believe that it can do miracles, and more importantly, world misses that. Especially the low income developing countries miss the modern science badly, and they cannot afford the high income high income expenses like in a developed world also. So a traditional knowledge system like Ayurveda could be able to do much better way. And whereas in the developed world, they also misses the holistic wisdom. Nowadays the future medicine is coming. A lot of people are speaking about future medicine. Holistic wisdom is Ayurveda, which has a holistic wisdom which implicates the traditional medicine. So what people need, what universe need is a symbiotic, mutually independent, meantime interdependent medical sciences, where traditional medical systems like Ayurveda could able to do a lot, because both the world, the developed world as well as developing world, is handicapped, because the developed world misses the holistic wisdom. They are rich, but they loses the holistic wisdom, whereas in the underdeveloping thing they are not able to meet their demands in the society. So keeping this idea, there is a huge opportunity that we can symbiotic both this knowledge system, so that we can go together, both medical system can go together in most of the Western countries. For example, like nowadays a lot of epidemics are coming. I don't want to speak about that because there are a lot of discussions are already happened on these. But besides these epidemics, there are a lot of diseases where Ayurveda could able to help the conventional medical system, especially the resurgence of the lifestyle disorders, where conventional medical system fails to control the lifestyle diseases like diabetes, coronary artery diseases, even the malignancies, where Ayurvedic medical system could able to help them in such a way that guiding the people to have a better life, better quality of lifestyle, so that they can live better. And also all over the world there is a huge trend of looking from the natural products, organic products, looking for things going back to the nature. There is a huge movement, as you all may be knowing, that vegetarianism is one of the huge trend in the Europe, and there are even hotels came, wagons, is big chain of hotel is happening in many part of the world. So what it means that people has a huge there is a huge space where people are looking for an alternative choice, where they are looking for natural things. So one and only medical system in the world which originated from the nature, which taken ideas from the nature, which taken the concept from the nature, and still it is one of the medical system which we can say it is the most proximal to the nature ever. First proximal to nature is Ayurveda, and hence Ayurveda could lead this area along with other medical system. It could be the leader of natural medicine in the future life. Beside, in the conventional medical system often fails in many situations to know the pathological things. I often used to say a sentence: modern medical science works on chemistry and Ayurveda works on physics. The chemistry means things about the chemicals, and we work on the physics where we think about the more non-material way. So we have our own principles based on the like a physics. So we can really explore this possibility that there is a growing demand in the world of so that there is a traditional way of life. People are looking for traditional way of life. Another important thing why Ayurveda can do a wonder, because it can reduce the cost of the healthcare. Enormously, the people are enormously badly need, especially in this situation, people are really looking for very low priced, highly effective medications. Ayurveda is, even though nowadays it is a bad name for Ayurveda, at least in some areas, that it's bit expensive, but reality is not very expensive. It is, if you really correct a person's lifestyle, if you really give proper advices in the ahara, achara, vihara, vichara and all, the prescription can be minimized in such a low level that it can be really give a good results in the more complicated situation also. So this is the right time for Ayurveda to research. This is the right time for the resurgence back, and now very fortunately we have very favorable political support from the government too. So it should be really taken into account at this point, so that we can go further as a traditional medicines in that area. Actually, why world is looking about Ayurveda? Because of not just because of as a medicine, rather people believe that this can be a holistic approach for human being, with giving proper respect to the body, mind, soul, that triangle. And very oftenly Ayurveda have a personalized approach like Prakriti aspects. Ayurveda has a beautiful concept like homeostasis or the Swastham approaches and all. We have a beautiful concepts which, if we are able to convey this to the people itself, that is more than enough. And more importantly, probably this is only medical system is so sensible in lifestyle, and that which recommends to the harmony with the nature, climate and customs. Probably no other medical system have that privilege. We always say we have Dinacharya, we have Ruducharya, which means that we have highly sensible, our medical system is highly sensible in the lifestyle of a person, which is really always trying to be harmony with the nature, climate and customs. And besides that, use of natural resources as a medicine is another big advantage we have comparing to any other medical system, because almost all the products what we use, even the Rasaushadis, we are taking the natural ores of things from the earth, plants, animal products, whatever we have, so that it has more proximal to the existing our own body, which can be more homogeneous to our Agni, which may be most proximal to our health system, etc. Another important thing, most importantly, people are really seeking spiritual support at this era, because we are in an era of Vata period, a lot of Vata activities are happening, and meantime we are also have a lot of stress, anxiety and all, and people are looking for a medical science that could able to attach, that could able to bind with a medical system that can be helping their spiritual progression, helping them to think about their spiritual life. So the spiritual thinking of Ayurveda, resulting the respectful attitude towards the nature or the ecological balance, self-respecting, there are a lot of things which Ayurveda highly keep at the top for many situations, which also has a huge value for a medical system to live, learn and teach in the world. And another part of this thing is that people believe that modern medical science largely uses therapeutic agents as a chemicals, so this may have a lot of hazardous effect. So this, to overcome from this hazardous effect, natural medicine could be of big help. So what I mean to say, as an Ayurveda Vision 2020, Ayurveda has a huge strength both in the public health, also in the personal life, for developing, for the development of the person as well as in the developing countries, because it can address total health care of a person. It can also give a lifestyle correction. It have a beautiful idea of about a physical and a psychological way of consulting person. It has a spiritual way of life. It has a strong idea of rejuvenating our life, that we could able to enjoy all our lifespan at its full, at its maximum, through different therapies like panchakarma, etc. So in that perspective, we have a lot of possibilities in front of us. So in the world, people are really looking for Ayurveda, but are we prepared for that? Is an important question we should ask. In India, as we all know, we have 400 plus Ayurvedic colleges, we have multi-faculty universities, we have private and government hospitals, we have medicinal plants, cultivations, enormous things are there. But even with this, all these things above, are we able to meet the need of the society? Not yet, because still we have to work a lot. Because we all have to work a lot, because we want to have more effective, more responsive educational system. Probably you might have read, there are a book written by a Westerner also commenting about the decline of the quality of Ayurvedic education. It's very shocking. So we need to have more effective, responsive educational system from a multi-level, multi-dimensional approach. We need a great support from the government to elevate our attitude of the students from an inferiority to a superiority level, so that we could able to survive. We need to increase the standard of our teaching institution much more higher, so that people, poor man, could also reach to the hospitals and serve and receive the best treatment what we have. And very importantly, we need people to have a strong faith in the Ayurvedic clinicians. There is already preconditioning among the people that, okay, Ayurveda is good for certain type of disease, Ayurveda is good for certain set of condition. It's not true. Ayurveda includes whole thing, but we want to readdress everything. To readdress these things, we need to readdress something, we need to start from the education, teaching the basic principles, and it has to be linked with the realistic part of the life. Let me give you an example in my personal life. Once I have been asked to go to a house where an older lady was there. He is almost dead. So my classmate who has invited me to come over there and asked me to check whether his grandma is died or not, because he was expecting my words as a death declaration. As you know in the villages and all, they often declare themselves as a death, but if there is an availability of a medical doctor nearby, they took their advices too. So as a part of that, I have been invited there to check this lady the sign of death. So I was standing there, I was just looking at the normal sign of that. So meantime, I was just thinking, if at all my grandfather could have been at this place, since I am from a traditional family born and brought up in Ayurveda, and my family has thousands of years of tradition as an Ashtavidya family, I was just retrospecting what might have been done by my ancestors, if at all. My grandfather was at this situation. He might have not knowing the pupillary dilatation. He might have not knowing the what we nowadays do, the stethoscope examination, or he may be checking the pulse as a nadi pariksha. But what currently we do as a pressure in the sternocleidomastoid pressure, or the usual what we do, the deck regulation, definitely he might have not knowing. Then what he may be doing? Where is the place in the book explained how a death has to be identified? Obviously, the thought will go about the Arishta Lakshanas, and also where we go to Arishta Lakshanas, so we see there are symptoms. Okay, that is Ayu Pramanam. That is the measurement where you find a boundary where a disease is not reversible. But this is not that point. This person is already dead. I want to declare here whether this person is alive or dead. What I should do? So there is a line we've learned in Ashtanga Hridayam Sutrasthanam. Doshadhadu malamulam sada dehasya. If deha, that is deha means dehi atman is situated there in the body, that is deha, sada always, doshadhadu mala will be there. Then what explain next? Tam chala ulsaha uchvasa nishwasa cheshta vega pravartane. These type of symptoms, see that anugranadi avikritaha. If everything goes well, this is the thing happen. So these things, ulsaha uchvasa nishwasa cheshta vega pravartane, these things are taken as a point of checklist, for a wonderful checklist for evaluation a person to say dead or alive. Is it not beautiful? It is such a wonderful thing that we can imagine. We have studied this shloka, Pittam Bhakti Ushma Darshini, etc. We have studied this Kapha shloka also, but we thought that this is something to be written for examination and pass. It's not the thing that can be utilized in a point in a real time life. But if you read that, and when you stand beside a dead body and you have a checklist of this Sanskrit terms, and you have a parallel term, contemporarily relevant term, it is much even superior than the death declaration mentioned in any of the current medical sciences. Is it not beautiful? So Ayurveda is absolutely wonderful, beautiful, but it depends upon how we utilize. Whether you explore the science, whether you not explore the science, all depends upon in our own hand. So if you are able to explore this potential, reading any part of the book should have three parts. One is the Shastra part, then is the Yukti part, the logical aspect of it, then Prayojanam, or the utility part, or the Anubhava part. If you are able to link these three, every sentence in the book become much more beautiful, refined and clear, and be efficiently communicate to the people. So AyurVision, in the topic, I have been asked to speak about the Ayurvedic learning and practice in the East and West, and I believe I spoken in the last 45 minutes. I was able to communicate something. I am really happy to speak, and I really thankful Jignasa people for organizing such a wonderful program, and once again thankful to all the participants for watching me. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I think I'm not able to see the chats there. I can able to see the chat, but I think there is no questions. Anyhow, thank you very much. Thank you once again. Namaste to all.